Hello everyone and welcome. Today we are going to talk about Eiffel Tower. Who built Eiffel Tower and why is it called Eiffel Tower? First of all, the reason it's called Eiffel Tower because the engineer who built it, his name was Gustave Eiffel. So he chose his own name Eiffel to name the tower. When this monument was built, it had 330 meters of height, which was considered as the highest monument in the world. But at the moment, of course, we know there are taller structures like the one Burj Al Khalifa, which is located in Dubai. So, for that particular reason, Burj Al Khalifa is the tallest building with 828 meters of height. So, Eiffel Tower is no more considered as the highest or tallest monument in the world. But when Eiffel Tower was built, just before Eiffel Tower, the tallest or the highest monument in the world, it was located in the United States called Washington Monument, which was built in the memory of one of the former United States presidents, George Washington. So it had 169 meters of height, but before Washington Monument, the highest building in the world, it was Pyramids of Egypt. So the Giza pyramids, its height was 146 meters and it held this record of being the highest or tallest building in the world for 3,800 years, which was absolutely fascinating. So that's why I don't think any other building might stand for 3,800 years. So it might held the record for years. But Eiffel Tower, when we talk about it, let's understand when it was built, why it was built, and who built it. In 1889, for the first time, they started the project of making Eiffel Tower, and Gustave Eiffel was one of the engineers who was given the contract to build this tower. So in 1889, France wanted to celebrate 100 years of revolution, which meant that in 1789, when France did revolution, it was the only country in whole Europe who was democratic, who had a republic regime. But most of the French neighboring countries, they still had their kings. They were monarchy. So they didn't want to have connections with France. They were scared that their own people might also start copying France and they might do a revolution. That could mean that they would lose their power and their kingdom. So that's why they wanted to avoid having connections with France. But France had other ideas. They said we will have a festival, a very good one, that it will force the leaders and the citizens of our neighboring countries to come and visit France. So that would be the only way to show them how well developed France is and how good a republic and democratic regime can be. And back then, what existed, what was very popular, was Universal Exposition. When Universal Exposition is held, the developers, the investors, or the people that they have invented something new, they come in this exposition and they show what they have invented. So that is how they could attract new customers. And this was something that used to attract a lot of businessmen, a lot of people from different countries, and a lot of leaders. So people could buy new stuff, they would understand what new stuff are in the market, because back then internet didn't exist, the TV didn't exist. So any country that held a festival or held a universal exposition, so most of the people they were forced to go there and attend this. So French people started thinking that, of course, a lot of people will come and attend this festival in France. So this is a good opportunity to show them what we are capable of, what ideas and projects we can have, how good a republican democratic country can be. And back then, if you had taller towers, it meant that you were economically very strong and you were way developed than the rest of the countries. So France decided that they will either build a very tall building or a very tall bridge, and for building something like this, they had to discuss this with Gustave Eiffel. So some of the engineers who wanted to work with Gustave Eiffel, they proposed these designs to Gustave Eiffel, that we will build something like this. And when Gustave Eiffel saw that French people, they are very serious about this, he said, okay, I want to take the decision, and he said yes to this. And he said, then I will be the one who will decide its shape, its design. First of all, it wouldn't have two pillars, it should have four pillars. Or in other words, we can say it should have four legs. One of the main reasons that it wanted Eiffel Tower to have four legs, because before Eiffel Tower, none of the monuments was as such that you could climb it. For example, Washington Monument, it was just a tall monument, but you couldn't enter it, you couldn't walk onto it. Or even the Giza pyramids, it was something that from far away you could see it. But Gustave Eiffel, you wanted to build something that you can climb on it, you can walk on it. And one thing else, Gustave Eiffel, he wasn't just an engineer, he was a businessman as well. He thought, if I charge everyone trying to climb this tower and I sell tickets, so we can have a very good revenue, we can generate a lot of money. So he made Eiffel Tower with three floors, or we can say three levels, and each level it had its own different price. The first level was cheaper compared to second and third level or third floor. But before we discuss the prices for the tickets, we should know that most of the people, they were against this project. They didn't want Eiffel Tower to be built. Why? Because the monuments or the churches or the historical places in Paris, they were not very tall back then. They were not taller than 5 or 6 floors. And most of the buildings in Paris, they were very unique, beautiful, and old from back in the history. So they said building something as Eiffel Tower, it will ruin the reputation and history and culture of France. But the only way Gustave Eiffel could convince people to let this project go ahead, he promised them that after 20 years, Eiffel Tower, it will be demolished. It will no more exist. So that is how he convinced people, and a lot of people were against the project as well, that it will cost a lot of money and we will need to invest. How will the government fund this? But Gustave Eiffel said, you know what, you shouldn't worry about this, because we can make a lot of money back in return as well from this tower. So as soon as Universal Exposition it began in Paris, a lot of people tried to come and see it, and Gustave Eiffel, he was very smart. Before this Universal Exposition started, he made such postcards that showed a huge tower inside the city of Paris, and most of the people, they were curious to understand what this is, how this city might look like, and apart from that, what stuff could we discover in this Universal Exposition. So more than 2 million people attended this Universal Exposition, and France made 7.5 million in return, which was all profit. Back then, currency of France, it was francs, and in today's money, if we convert it to euro, it will be 37 million euros. And during these 2 years of project that this tower was built, the money that was used in project that they invested, it was 7.5 million marks anyway. So Gustave Eiffel and French people, they thought that the money that they have invested, this 37 million euros in today's money, they might earn this back in 20 years. That was the reason that they said after 20 years we will demolish the tower, but they didn't know they can make this huge profit only in the first year. And Gustave Eiffel, he made postcards that you could send to your friends that would show that you're in Paris and how beautiful and good this city looks. It was a way of advertising the city and this tower. And since then, social media didn't exist. So in these postcards, you would attach one of your probably paintings, and then show this tower and just write a little bit about it, how good and beautiful the city is, and send it to your friends. So when your friends used to receive these letters and these postcards, they would be like, wow, this is a city, or this is a place that I would love to visit someday as well. So for this particular reason, Eiffel Tower got popular very, very quickly. So fast forward, now 20 years were gone and people wanted to demolish Eiffel Tower. But Gustave Eiffel never wanted to demolish this. So he came out with an idea. Back then, radios. Radio was something very new which was newly introduced, and a lot of people in Europe, especially in France, they wanted to have radios, the towers in France. Newsletters or paper news, it was something old now. So Gustave Eiffel, since he was very smart, he came out with an idea that why not attach antenna on the top of Eiffel Tower? Because the higher the antenna is, the better the signals. And Eiffel Tower was a very good solution because now you could have access to radio stations and its channels very easily with the help of Eiffel Tower. So he convinced people of Paris that is something very good now, and apart from that, the money that we make from the tickets, we will invest it on the people of Paris. So finally, they rejected the idea of demolishing Eiffel Tower because it could generate a lot of money and it was good for the city. So what is Eiffel Tower made from? What materials are used in this tower? Generally, it is made of wrought iron and steel. Wrought iron is very strong and very good. It have good quality. It can stand for years. And this wrought iron which was used, it was made in the industries which are located in the region of Lorraine in France. And of course, you cannot create and construct such a tall tower at once. So you had to have different pieces of metal and wrought iron and steel, like a puzzle, construct them together. 18,038 different pieces of wrought iron were used to form this tower. And more than 2.5 million nails and screws were used for this tower. So it's made with a lot of complications. And apart from that, when the tower was built, Gustave Eiffel, he said, any engineer or person who was working in this project will not consume alcohol. Because the shape of this tower is different from the buildings. The buildings, when they are made, they have some space, so their security measures are better than this tower. But if consuming alcohol and you would fall from this tower, people who were eager to stop this project, they would have now a very good excuse and reason to stop this project, which Eiffel didn't want this to happen. Gustave Eiffel, he himself is born in 1923. He was considered as one of the most intelligent engineers, not only in France but all over the world. And he was born in the Dijon city of France. He was graduated from École Centrale des Arts in France. First, he took a degree in chemistry because he liked chemistry as well. Later on, he completed his engineering and became one of the best engineers of all time. Apart from Eiffel Tower, he built a lot of bridges, the one which is very popular in the city of Bordeaux. And apart from that, he took part in making Statue of Liberty. As you know, Statue of Liberty, which is located in the city of New York in America, it was built by the French people, and Gustave Eiffel was one of the engineers who took part in that project. And he's made some railroads as well, for which he is popular. So for these huge projects that he has done, he is very popular. Apart from Gustave Eiffel, France itself is considered one of the most popular countries when it comes to tourism. Since last 10 to 15 years, if you see, France holds #1 position each year when it comes to tourism. Because France, it have a lot of historical places like Musée du Louvre, Mont Saint-Michel, Château de Versailles or Castle of Versailles. But the main reason that France attracts a lot of tourists is Eiffel Tower maybe. For example, me myself, with my family, I visit Eiffel Tower so often, or my friends as well, they visit France. So for so many different reasons, a lot of people visit this tower.